I think it really comes down to your investment strategy. One of the nice things about wholesaling is anybody can do it, even if you can't get a loan or you have credit challenges or whatever the case is. And hard money lenders can help you even if you have those things, but anybody could do that and sell it. And it's a great way to make some quick cash if you find the properties right. Yeah, I mean, you can start in real estate with nothing. The reality is if you went out right now, knocked on some doors, found a motivated seller, you could sell that contract to somebody else and they would buy that contract from you. You'd have to build some relationships. You'd have to build somebody that's willing to buy that property, and you'd have to find a way to find somebody that wants to sell a property at a discount. Just got to be committed. I don't care if you want to do real estate, stock trading, if you want to create a blog, a website, whatever the case is, you've got to just commit. I find a lot of people are hopping around. And the reality is a lot of strategies work. But you've got to have the tenacity, the commitment, you've got to follow through.
And that is coming up next on Bootstrapping Your Dreams show, so stay tuned. So, the big question is this: how are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough, use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams? Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. We have created a tremendous community of bootstrappers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ambitious, resourceful, and want to get things done. We brainstorm, support, and help each other out. So come join us. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. Join today and get the Startup Founders Technology Accelerator video series absolutely free. If you enjoy this video, then do let us know by hitting that like button now. Or if you want us to improve our content, then go ahead and hit that thumbs down button and give us your honest feedback in the comment section below. Here at Tetanoodle, we are passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Every week, we bring you insightful and engaging videos, interviews, tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your business or rise in your corporate profession. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing and do not forget to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we publish new content.
Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we'll be talking with Ryan Wright. Ryan has been a prolific fix and flip entrepreneur since 2002 and has mentored thousands of new real estate investors during that time. He first started in real estate as an agent along with his wife almost 20 years ago. Several hundred profitable flips later, Ryan decided to take on a slightly different challenge to help new investors get funding quickly from reputable sources. The result was dohardmoney.com, a hard money lender that Ryan founded. Ryan, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So real estate, let's talk about real estate. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? How did you get into flipping houses, and what was that journey like? Tell us a little bit about that.
I kind of just believe that if you work hard and, you're continuously improving, that doors just open. And I think that's kind of the result of my career. A door opened, it was a good opportunity. So I walked through it, I gave it my best, and another door opened. Honestly, my grandpa did a few real estate deals before it was popular. My dad did some duplex, threeplex, fourplex. He was a chiropractor and then bought some properties, just got advice, saying, hey, they're not making any more dirt. And so we just, I kind of fell into it. I've been an agent. I started out buying rental properties, duplexes, and then I became an agent, and then I helped other people buy, and then I kept buying my own, and then I started helping other people fix and flip, and did some wholesaling, and now we do lending, and we also have some software tools that we provide to make the process quite a bit easier that are proprietary to us, because there's with technology these days, and I know that's a lot of your listenership is tech entrepreneurs. There's so much that can happen. There's so much disruption, I think, that's going to happen in the real estate and the lending space having to do with technology as it's properly used. And there's pros and cons around a lot of that, but that kind of leads me up to where I am today. It's when a door opens, you give it hard work, you analyze it, and you take the opportunity when it comes.
That's awesome. Now, some of us, who lived through the 2008 crash, 2007 sort of peak in the real estate pricing, we are a little bit skeptical of real estate. Some people got really burnt really badly. So, can you tell us how did you weather that storm and how did it work out for you?
Yeah. I mean, we did extremely well through that. The interesting thing, my investors, the guys that brought money and did deals, it was the only investment where they actually made money as a whole. Some deals they lost money, some deals they made money. And I'm not saying they made double-digit returns. We probably made 3% on our money, but it was 10 times or 1,000 times better than what they got in the stock market or other investments they had. So actually, after 2008, it actually catapulted our business because the investors were like, man, this really works even through the bad times. And right now, we're really just lucky because we know what prices went to in 2008. So if you really want to look at a worst case scenario, I believe is you can look back in 2008 prices and say, what did this sell for in 2008? Because I think you'll have a hard time with it getting worse than that. There's a lot of talk about another recession. I don't know where I fall in that spectrum, if it's happening or not happening. Some markets, because real estate's just so regional. Yes, there are some things like this last real estate crisis because of the subprime loans and all that type of stuff that caused that. But the reality is that a lot of it's so local. So you'll see places that are doing really well and some that are struggling right now across the country.
I see. Well, that's amazing that you were able to make money through that tough time. So, can you tell us a little bit about what is different about your strategies, about the way that you work?
Yeah, I think we're really conservative. We don't do your multi-million-dollar type deals. And a lot of people are attracted to those because you can do one deal and make a whole bunch of money on that one deal. But we basically decided we wanted to be in the blue collar neighborhoods, the median price ranges. And when you deal with like even in my marketplaces, houses that sold or were for sale for $1.5 million. And this is different market by market. I'm talking median price range. So my median price range right now is probably about $250,000, $300,000. If you deal with a $1.5 million property, those properties in 2008 went all the way to maybe $500,000 of value. And now they're probably worth about $750,000 of value. So those have not made it up. Anything over $500,000, like in Salt Lake City, is not selling for what it sold for before 2008. But if you look at the houses that were selling for $180,000 or $200,000, they're more in value. They're $250,000 now than where they were. So you have this whole, it's not the same for these properties that it is for the high-end properties. And so we've always had the business perspective of we're not going to get into these high-end luxury type properties. We're going to stay in the median price ranges because the volatility in the median price ranges, 80-90% of the people can buy that house, where when you deal with luxury or higher end properties, you're dealing with 3 or 4% of the buyer's pool. And that buyer's pool tends to be extremely picky. So they're going to nitpick everything and the lights, the fixture, and all this type of stuff. So I think one of the big things for our investment criteria that we said is we're going to invest in median price ranges and we're not going to go over significant dollar amounts. And so we can stay in the blue collar working class type neighborhoods. We're not talking about being in the war zones, the bad neighborhoods, but we want to be in the blue collar type working neighborhoods. And that's been a real key to our success.
I see. Now, when you buy a house, I'm not too sure. Like I'll talk about your lending business as well. But during your experience with flipping the houses, how much do you have to do in terms of fixing up the house before you can flip it?
Yeah, it all depends. You can get a property that needs work and sell it to somebody else that wants to do the rehab. That's typically called a wholesale deal. You've got to buy an even better deal. Sometimes they'll sell that paper where they get under contract and they'll sell the contract, or get it under contract, close on it, and then sell the property to somebody else. So you can do little work. There's also a strategy that's called wholesaling. There's a strategy where you find a property and then you retail it. You do little, maybe under $5,000 worth of work to the property and put it on the open market and sell it that way. And then there's the whole strategy of where you actually fix the property up and sell it for maximum potential. You just have to look and see, hey, where am I going to get the most bang for my buck? I think making sure that you take care of make sure everything's in working order, obviously, but then you've got to deal with the carpets, the paints, the bathrooms, the kitchens. Those are the things that typically sell. So I think it really comes down to your investment strategy. One of the nice things about wholesaling is anybody can do it, even if you can't get a loan or you have credit challenges or whatever the case is. And hard money lenders can help you even if you have those things, but anybody could do that and sell it. and it's a great way to make some quick cash if you find the properties right.
I see. Well, a few TV shows that come to mind on HGTV. I used to watch them, flipping houses and whatnot. So I remember there were some nightmares where somebody bought a house and then they didn't realize it needed a whole bunch of work. The foundation had to be changed and whatnot. So, somebody who was trying to get into this business, what are some of the things that you'll caution them to take care of so that they don't get into this kind of mess?
Yeah, and we've built a lot of that into our process. It's interesting because even with technology, it can't solve every problem. There is a human touch to that, especially in my business. And one of those human touches we have a software that helps you identify how much the rehab will be based upon your area and local pricing and those things, carpet, paint, square footage, how much will the roof cost. And that gets you a pretty good idea. But then from there, we actually have to have a project manager work with the borrower and the borrower's general contractor to make sure those costs are in line. And so one of the things you got to do is vet your contractor. It doesn't matter if all your prices are right. If the contractor doesn't show up to do the work, you got yourself in trouble. And some people get with the highest bid or go with the lowest bid when that guy doesn't show up. And so then your bids double and you're in a big problem all of a sudden. I think you have to expect problems. And I think you have to do a thorough walk through the property and make sure you know what's going to happen. I think you need to budget for those things. I think you need to budget for the project to have, happen. I think you've got to vet the contractor. We do a great job because we have project managers that work with the contractor and the borrower to make sure everything's in line. So we have a third party kind of validate that to make sure it's not too much or too little when it comes to pricing, further than what the software can do for you, by working with an individual that is doing deals in that neighborhood. So I think that's probably the big things.
I see. That's great. And now coming to the money part, real estate obviously is not something that people get into. And I have heard a lot of people come up with strategies. Even you mentioned if you don't have money or you don't have credit. So can you tell us, sort of in straight form, how much money do you actually need to get started in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, you can start in real estate with nothing. The reality is if you went out right now, knocked on some doors, found a motivated seller, you could sell that contract to somebody else and they would buy that contract from you. You'd have to build some relationships. You'd have to build somebody that's willing to buy that property, and you'd have to find a way to find somebody that wants to sell a property at a discount. Depending upon your skill sets, that could take a day and it could take 3 years. It just depends on your skill sets and how hard you're willing to go work. But if you did that, you could make some money, selling that contract or wholesaling that property. As a lender, we'll do a deal if the purchase, the rehab, the closing costs, and the payments, and the rehab all fit under 70% of the after repaired value. We'll fund all of that. Now, those deals take a lot of work to find that. And so what we recommend people doing is there's multiple ways to get started in real estate with no money down. One is wholesaling properties. Another one is find a really good deal, and a hard money lender like us will fund you everything. There's not a lot of true hard money lenders left, but some of them will. And then you can also partner. So I can find the property, I can get a loan, but kind of like they do in commercial real estate, it's called syndication, where they find somebody that brings the down payment money, they get a loan for the purchase, and then they either do that through equity or they do it through debt. Equity meaning we'll split with you the equity we get, or debt meaning I'll pay you back this at an interest rate. And so you can do those types of things, friends, family, you can get it from your 401k. You can, go and recruit people that want to put money into this. A lot of ways that you can get started with little to no money down. A few $1,000, we like to tell people, you probably need $5,000. You're going to need a few dollars to get started, maybe a little marketing. But the reality is you're only limited by your creativity.
I see. So as you said, finding these deals can take a little bit of time or more, depending upon how aggressive you are. Can you share any strategies, any tactics that people can use to sort of look for these deals and where to find them?
Well, and I think your tech entrepreneurs are going to geek out a little bit because I'm going to get a little bit technical. So what we're looking for, and we have a software called Investor's Edge, but the idea is Investor's Edge software. So the idea is I need to find motivation and I need to find equity. If they don't have equity and they don't have motivation, unless I'm going to do like a seller financing deal, so they've got to have equity, they got to have motivation, or I can do a seller finance deal, which is another thing. But what I'm basically doing is I'm saying, who has motivation? Somebody going through a divorce, somebody that owns a property out of state, somebody that's going through a bankruptcy, somebody that can't pay their bills, those types of things. So I have these different factors that I can put in. And I say, okay, I want everybody that's going through a divorce in this zip code. But then I cross-reference that and I say, well, I want anybody that has at least $100,000 worth of equity. And the way that I pull that is I find out how much their loan was when they originally took it. I do a reverse amortization on that loan so I know approximately what that's worth now. And then our software will say, hey, what's the 5 closest houses cost per square foot, and say this is what the house is worth. Now, that's not what the house is worth, but it gives me an idea if I should spend 50 cents to send that guy a postcard. Oh, so I can hit a button and I can do what's called a skip trace, where I can get his name, his phone number, his email address, and those things all legally and legitimately. I can then hit a button and send him a postcard. I can send him a voice broadcast where it just does a ringless voicemail, shows up on his phone as a missed call. And I say, hey, I understand you're going through a difficult situation. We'd love to help you with this property. We have solutions. We can do it without agents. We can save you a ton of money. So those are the types of things that need to happen to find properties. We're talking out-of-state owners, non-owner occupied. We're talking for rent by owners. We're talking, cash owners that may have bought a property that want to get rid of it. There's multiple different factors. I'm only touching on a few of them. And then I cross-reference motivation against money. And then I can go market to those guys. The opposite is true if I want to do seller financing type deal. There's strategies to get if the guy wants $100,000, the house is worth $100,000, I could pay $100,000 as long as he's going to finance me at no interest and no money down. And then I create the deal through margin, through financing. And that's a great strategy as well.
I see. That's great. And so when you work with new investors who don't have much experience, what are some of the things that they need to do in terms of their mindset? Because, to some, including myself, like buying a home, buying a property is sort of a daunting thing. So what do you suggest in terms of, getting their mindset right to enter this game?
Yeah, I think there's two big things. One is commitment. You've just got to be committed. I don't care if you want to do real estate, stock trading, if you want to create a blog, a website, whatever the case is, like you've got to just commit. I find a lot of people are like hopping around. And the reality is a lot of strategies work. But you've got to have the tenacity, the commitment. You've got to follow through. I find a lot of people that get started and give up too quick. They look at one house and they get frustrated, or they try and get the financing from us and it doesn't turn out the way that they were hoping for, and then they just give up. So you got to work through that. I think the first deal you do is the hardest and it takes the most effort. And even if you broke even on that first deal, having that experience and having that notch in your tool belt to really propels you to make the next one easier. You learn so much from it. I mean, even if you had to pay a college education to do the first deal, it'd be so worth it because that second deal becomes so much easier, and then it can catapult your success. So I think having the right mindset. The second thing is you got to have the right technology, and you got to have the right mentor, and you've got to have the right systems. And so luckily in this day and age, it's really inexpensive. I mean, for things that used to cost me tens of thousands of dollars, you can get for a few $100s. And then finding somebody that's just been there, done that can help you along the way. That's, I think, really important. Even myself, early on in my career, I was really hesitant to spend money for, seminars or mentorship or whatever the case is. Now it's like the best investment I make. As long as you apply what they say, it's not a waste of money. If you don't apply it, then it can be a waste of money because you choose not to apply it. But getting some good help, some good mentorship to say, follow this system. We already learned over 18 years or 19 years, follow the system and do it. And predictably, the percentage-wise, you're going to have success.
Awesome. That's great. And by the way, does this system work in any part of the world, or is it specific to US?
Yeah, so right now our system's only in the U.S. I'm sorry for those Canadians listening.
That's okay.
A lot of when you cross barriers, some of the some of the what information doesn't transfer. Like you guys have a hard time doing in Canada. Skip tracing is like so difficult to do, and so some of my real estate investor friends up in Canada are like, "You're so lucky in the U.S. There's so much." However, if you are in Canada or another state or another country and you want to invest in the U.S., it would work for you there. So there may be changing your investment strategy and investing out of state or out of country, maybe something to consider as well.
I see. Okay, that's great. Now let's talk about your shift. So you went from real estate agent to flipping houses, and now you're lending money. So tell us a little bit about why did you make those shifts? Did something happen, or these are better opportunities that you came across? Tell us the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, I think a few things. In my local marketplace, the competition just kept getting more difficult and more difficult. And I also wanted to take more of a passive role than an active role. So an active role meaning looking at the crews, watching over them, those types of things. And with the hard money, I can invest my money and let my money work for me, rather than me overseeing the entire projects myself. So I still do that, just not at the level that I used to do that. So it was kind of a lifestyle change of doing less on the open real estate. We still have rental properties. We still have commercial properties. We still do lending. We still do some flips, just not at the degree that we were. And so I think it's active income versus more passive income is one of the big things. It created the opportunities for me to do more lending with my own capital and get that capital working rather than having to be more of an active participant in the income that's coming in. I think it was really the big reason. The other thing that's kind of cool is just it's kind of fun to have some of the technology stuff. We built what we call an advanced deal analysis software. One of the things we found for new investors, they were struggling to actually think of what the prices are. You mentioned like HGTV. They do funny math. We bought it for $100. We put $50,000 into it. We sold it for $200, and we made $50,000. And we found a lot of people were thinking that that was the way math worked, and it doesn't, because there's holding costs and there's interest and there's insurance and there's fees and there's transfer taxes and there utilities and all this type of stuff. So we built a software that does all that for you and will tell you like, hey, in the wintertime, you're going to spend more money. It's already built in, transfer tax, fees, whatever the case is. So you can put in your numbers and it'll be like, this is what your profit really looks like. So that was a really cool software to build. And frankly, I just love helping other people get into the game and find success with it. A guy by the name of Dan helped me, and I like to help other people.
Awesome. Now, they say, information is power. So you are giving away this information. Do you believe that this may create more competition for you? Because you said there's already competition. So if more people are getting involved, this is being devil's advocate. Like sure. I'm trying to understand what prompted you to help people and share this information.
Yeah, definitely creates more competition. There's just no way to say that it doesn't. That said, I think most people get excited but don't do much. So I think of the people that really become competition, it's pretty small. I wish more of them did. And if there's this idea of competition versus collaboration. So what I found is some of the people that you would consider competition, I've actually been able to collaborate with, and we've been able to do more or better or different deals together because of that. So maybe I've got somebody I compete with in, fix and flipping or whatever the case is. And I'm able to do a mobile home deal with those guys. And I would have never even seen that deal before if it wasn't for them. So I think you have to be careful with competition versus collaboration. The other thing is we're not afraid. We're in multiple states. So we're in multiple states. And so I think that opens up, and I think we're barely scratching the surface. If you look at how many fix and flips happen in the United States and how many, we're a part of, it's such a small percentage, although we're a really good sized company, it's such a small percentage of the overall. So I'm a real fan of offering value. And if you offer value and solve problems, problem solving never goes out of style, and whoever can solve the problems the best is the one that ends up winning, and you can do well through collaboration.
That's great. And now, can this be done as a side hustle as well? Like, some people are in their jobs, in their businesses, they just want to try things out and not leave their current position. So how does that work? How much time do you need for this?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only can it be, but I encourage it heavily. I think a side hustle of real estate investing is the way to go. One of the things we promote is our podcast, Income Hacker. And our thing is we believe anybody can become financially free in 10 years or less. And it's through using principles, financial, being financially independent, using financial mechanisms to be smart on budgeting and saving money and creating a margin and investing it, getting out of the Wall Street casino and investing in real estate in different ways. So absolutely. I think within 10 to 15 hours a week, somebody could be a real estate investor. I think it would take about 120 days to find that first property. It may take one day, it may take more, depending upon your skill sets and depending upon if you want to put in time or money. Marketing really just comes down to either you have to put in the time or you got to put in the money. If you want to go send 10,000 postcards, you're probably going to get a deal tomorrow if you have the skill sets to do it. But if you don't have the money to do that and you need to knock on doors, it's going to take you longer to find that deal. So it's time or it's money. And as long as you have the right skill sets and the right system and you know what to follow and what to say and what to do with the deal and how to analyze it and how to know what the values are and those types of things which we help people with, then absolutely you could do some door knocking. You could door knock on the weekend or for 4 hours in the morning and send out a few postcards and do some skip tracing and do some voice broadcasts and answer those on your lunch hour as the calls that come in. It doesn't take lots of deals to find a great one. It doesn't take lots of calls, right? You might have to knock on a lot of doors, but if you're doing postcards of those things, a few opportunities can turn into a deal before you know it.
Awesome. And you mentioned phone calls, you mentioned postcards. So it seems like it's still a very traditional way of marketing. Does digital media or digital marketing play any role in this?
Yeah, very much so. So there's a new push in the real estate investing with digital. And I think there's definitely a place for that. So, you can run Facebook ads, you can geo-target, you can do there's all different types. You can do SEO for, sell my house and that type of stuff. I think the SEO obviously is more of a long play. The digital marketing, you've got to be careful because you can lose a lot of money quick if you don't know what you're doing. So I think that's a more advanced strategy, or if somebody has some digital marketing experience, it's a great play to do. But I caution it just early on because if you don't set up your campaign right and limit the amount of money you're going to spend, you could wake up and have a lot of money that got spent with Google. So you just got to be careful with that. If you've got some experience, by all means, do it. There's lots of opportunities through segmentation, geo-targeting, audiences, those types of things to actually have some success with that. But in the same regards, it's maybe quite a bit more expensive than going and knocking on doors or putting up some bandit signs. So it definitely has a role because people are everywhere. One of the things we also do find, though, is some of the older demographics that may have free and clear houses may not be as much technical. So, just be careful. One of the other things that's really popular is just picking up the phone and making phone calls and just saying, hey, are you interested in selling your house? Are you interested in selling your house? And so that can be a very cost-effective strategy as well, even less expensive than working with Google.
I see. That's great. And what about people? Do people get annoyed, receiving phone calls like this? Or, there are spam laws or cold calling. Does that work these days?
Yeah. People get annoyed with everything. If you ever driven down the street, people get annoyed with the way you drive, the way you look, or they don't like my hair, or they can't stand my shirt, or whatever the case is. I think we have an abundance of people being annoyed. But in the same regards, I'm not trying to annoy anybody, but I'm trying to get your attention. And, if you're in a bad financial situation or going through a bankruptcy or a divorce, or you had a family member die, I can really help you. I can really legitimately, really, really, really help you. And I can help solve the problem, and I can take care of the probate. I can do all these types of things, and I have the resources and the money and those types of things. I can really help you. And so I feel like it's a requirement of me to offer my services, where I'd be doing them a disservice because I don't want them to get involved with somebody else that could take advantage of them or lead them astray or not get the most money or whatever the case is. I can really help them. So yes, you have to have some thick skin because in the end, this is a sales and a marketing job, right? You got to use the technology to find the right opportunities, but then you have to reach out to those people, give them a reason to call you, or you have to outreach to them and get them to call you. As far as some of the laws, the great thing about services we offer, we're not selling anything. So a lot of the calling laws and that type of stuff has to do with solicitations of wanting to sell something. We're actually making an offer. We're saying, hey, we want to purchase your house. So right now, we're not aware of anything that's going against that where it's different. I'm not saying, hey, will you buy a cell phone for me for $59.99 a month and 3 equal payments? I'm saying, hey, I want to buy this house from you. Like, I want to pay you. And so those are falling under different categories at the moment, the way our attorneys understand it.
Got it.
And I'm not an attorney, by the way.
No, but it's a very important point you brought up. Like, this is a sales and marketing role, and you need to have a little bit of a thick skin to do this properly. So that was a very good point.
And Leslie, don't be a jerk. If somebody calls and's mad, just, apologize. If we're using a voice broadcast, we usually have it go to a voicemail because there will be upset people and call back the ones that are interested. But yeah, thick skin's required.
Yeah. All right. And are there any specific kind of deals or red flags that you can share with the audience today, so that there may be some deals they want to stay away from, and with your experience, you will know what are those red flags? So can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. The types of things we're looking out for, and luckily technology helps with this. There's a website called Crime Reports. It's really cool. You want to make sure you're not in a war zone. If somebody got murdered yesterday across the street from the property you're looking to buy, it's probably not a property you want to buy. One of the things I say quite frequently, if I wouldn't let my wife walk down the street alone by herself, it's not a neighborhood you want to invest in. So, I think that's a big one. I think railroad tracks, being near railroad tracks and not doing, cost adjustments, busy streets, boarded up homes. If there's lots of boarded up homes, you need to be concerned about that. If you're dealing with anything that's been a meth house, you've got to be worried about those types of things. So, and the number of renters in the area. So if it's primarily a rental area, you got to be concerned about that. Most homeowners want to live in an area that's predominantly homeowners, and you've got to put your thinking cap on. So I would say the biggest thing is overlooking the obvious. When you drive in and you see all the houses are in disrepair, you want to be purchasing the worst house in the best neighborhood. You want to, when you buy that house, all the neighbors are like, oh, hallelujah, that you're doing the repairs and making this thing nice, bring it up to standard. You don't want to buy the worst house in the best neighborhood, or you don't want to buy, you don't want to be the best house. You want to be the worst house. That's the type of stuff you want to be buying. So I would say making sure you're not crossing natural barriers, knowing where railroad tracks are, making sure you're not near commercial, making sure it's not on busy streets, making sure that you're not, dealing with a McDonald's across the street from those types of things that are easy to overlook because you get all excited. Oh, I'm going to make all this money. And so you can look those things up and look at the crime reports and make some decisions. Luckily, most police stations put their stuff online, and Crime Reports is an aggregator of that. And you can, see what's going on in that neighborhood and really have a good feel.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Those are really awesome tips. Now, this has been a very interesting conversation, and I think a lot of people learned, including myself, learned a lot about real estate. Before I let you go, can you tell us how people can reach out to you and maybe learn from you or hire you for your services or lending business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can always check us out at Income Hacker. You can check out the podcast. You can go to dohardmoney.com. But any of your listeners, for your listeners, anybody that's interested, I've got a book, How to Get More Money You Can Never Handle, a real estate investor's guide to funding deals. I'll give you a free copy of it. It sells on Amazon for $20 or $25 or $7. I can't remember. You can get a free digital copy of it. Just go to dohardmoney.com/bootstrapping-your-dreams to go along with your podcast listeners. And if they do that, they can get a free copy of that as well, and check things out.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for your generosity. I'll definitely check it out. And anybody who's listening or watching, please go to that URL. We'll put that URL in the show notes as well, so that you can easily get to that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And that's all for now. Until next time. Now, if you're an entrepreneur or a career professional, then I invite you to join our growing community. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. As a welcome bonus, you will get the Startup Founders Technology Accelerator video series and Mastering Your Inner Game video series absolutely free. This series of short videos address some core issues which are instrumental in helping you move forward in your business or career. The videos are yours to view and share for free. No obligations or strings attached, except for one. You have to take action and implement it. So join us today. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. If you want more engaging videos and insightful interviews with industry's thought leaders, then check out the other videos we have picked for you. The link is right there. And if you want to be notified about our new content, please do consider subscribing to our channel.